Hello, my name is Dominique Guyonnet. I work at the French Geological Survey, the BRGM. I'm a hydrogeologist by training. I studied hydrogeology in Canada and in Switzerland. And I've been working for many years on issues related to the fate and transport of contaminants in the subsurface, in groundwater, in soils. I've been working on the evaluation of risks associated with contaminated sites and on contaminated soil remediation. Mission soil, the complete wording is the Soil Health and Food Mission, is one of 5 missions of Horizon Europe. Mission Soil is part of a framework for sustainable soil management and restoration in urban and rural areas. And in this framework, Mission Soil is the funding and coordination mechanism. And there are 2 other main building blocks of this framework. There's the soil strategy, which is the policy component of the framework. And there is the EU Soil Observatory, which aims to collect data and information on soils in Europe. PHISHES is a project that was obtained in the context of Mission Soil, and its main objective is to provide a link between information, data on soil, and policy for soil management in terms of tackling pollution and promoting the restoration of contaminated soils. PHISHES will develop, in particular, a PHISHES digital platform, which we call the PDP, that should help stakeholders, for example, owners of contaminated land or farmers, etc., to help them assess how changes in land management can influence soil functions and ecosystem services. And this is very much in line with the objectives of the future directive on soil monitoring and resilience, which focuses strongly on soil health in terms of its ability to provide ecosystem services. I should emphasize that among the main strengths of the PHISHES project is the diversity of the proposed test cases. There are 5 test cases in PHISHES that cover both agricultural and urban settings. One is in the Czech Republic. It's the Zilivka River Basin test case, and it is led by Czech Globe and focused on the influence of farming practices on the quality of groundwater and surface water. For example, how would a transition of farming practices to conservation farming, how would that transition modify a soil function such as water retention, circulation, and infiltration? That soil function gives rise to a number of important ecosystem services. What we call a soil function is what soil does independently of us humans and societies. What we call ecosystem services is services that benefit to society. For example, the provision of clean water, or the provision of biomass, the regulation of climate change. Those are services that are essential for society and which are not provided if these functions are not operating. Another test case that is focused on a major urban area is the Rotterdam case, led by Ned Taref, that will consider the effects of artificial aquifer recharge on urban greening, soil health, and biodiversity, etc., taking into account effects of major drivers such as the effects of climate change. Climate change is a driver that is considered in many of the scenarios that are defined for the test cases, the PHISHES test cases. Another example is a test case which is covered by BRGM and SGI. They are both working together to better assess the effects of contaminated soil remediation on the restoration of soil functions and ecosystem services, with a test case located in Sweden, where soils have been severely contaminated by PFAS. These examples will highlight how the various model trains developed within PHISHES can provide predictive capability in terms of the effects of land management action on soil characteristics in terms of functions and services. And these functions and services are the basis of soil health, as defined in the future directive on soil monitoring and resilience. An important characteristic of the modeling approaches adopted in PHISHES are their transdisciplinary nature. There is hydrologic modeling based on, for example, DHI is the coordinator of the PHISHES project. They have developed a model called Mike Shee, and this model goes from groundwater modeling in the saturated zone to the unsaturated zone, surface runoff, surface hydrology balance with precipitation, evapotranspiration, etc., surface water, etc. And in PHISHES, this model is to a certain extent coupled with another model called DAISY, developed by the University of Copenhagen, which simulates processes in the root zone and interaction with plants. And these processes are directly relevant to soil functions and services. And we are well aware that in PHISHES, it will not be possible to develop quantitative approaches for all soil functions or services. For example, functions and services associated with soil biodiversity. One example would be nematode populations in soils. These are very difficult to model in a quantitative fashion, and approaches to data are very qualitative in nature. They are based on indicators of counts, etc. But there is data in the literature, and we are going to explore the existing data that suggests correlations between levels of soil contamination and diversity of certain organisms in the soil. For example, nematodes, but there are all sorts of microorganisms, mesoorganisms, different scales. So a first level of modeling for these difficult cases would be to introduce correlations in the models. That is something we hope to achieve. I would like to stress that in the past, agronomists who work on soil and plant processes and the researchers interested in soil pollution and the fate of and transport of contaminants in the soil haven't sufficiently interacted because they don't have necessarily the same approaches. But thanks to Mission Soil, these different communities are having more interaction and are sharing more common language. This is the case in France, for example, where the BRGM, for which I work, we have a lot of work on contaminated soil remediation, and we're more and more in contact with another institute called INRAE, which is the French National Agronomy Institute. We are in contact in particular to bring together databases on soil quality in different contexts, rural context for INRAE, urban context for BRGM. So this is very important to have this transverse view on data, and that's where PHISHES comes in to translate data into action in terms of management practices.